Hello and welcome to today's edition of the African Liberty webinar. I am Andrew Monganga, the Communications Intern at African Liberty. I'm excited to actually welcome you to this session. This is a very crucial session where we're going to talk about the future of democracy in Africa. Joining me right now is a very special guest, all the way from Cameroon. She has joined us in helping us understand what really is the future of democracy in Africa. So Vanessa Aboudi is a doctoral student in political science at the University of Yaoundé, where she obtained her master in the same discipline. She's also an analyst in governance and democracy at the Nkafu Policy Institute. We welcome you, all of you that have joined us. This is, we usually have this webinar once in every month just to discuss about matters that get to affect the continent. Vanessa, would you probably want to say hi to everybody? Okay, I think we can't hear you. We can't hear you very well. Maybe your mic or something. Yeah, I think we can't hear you. Okay, sorry, I think your mic isn't too clear. It's very low. So yeah, we can't hear you very well. And I think it's the same with everyone in the, every attendee, because that's the concern in the chat. Yeah. Okay, so maybe as just you trying to fix up with the mic, maybe I can also just get to introduce the other panelists that are supposed to be with us today. So we also have Chriseddy Mwila Wanga. He is a social entrepreneur, award-winning governance expert, and the executive director at BeRelevant Afrika. So Mwila holds a bachelor's degree in politics and international relations from the University of Lusaka. Then we also have Dakore Ekpendu. She is a multimedia journalist who is dedicated to amplifying voices and stories that matter, with a focus on women, youth, peace, and myriad of critical issues. Her goal is to inform, inspire, and drive positive change through impactful storytelling. So these are our guests for today. I am very excited, I think just like everybody, to actually have them come and discuss these matters. So I see Vanessa has actually left. She probably is having some network challenge, but this is a very crucial topic, because democracy is actually a system of governance that places power in the hands of the people. Just like we know, it allows us to participate in decision-making processes and choose our own leaders, those that we deem fit to represent us very well. Okay, so Vanessa, you're back. Can you hear us now? Maybe we can just hear you back. Okay, we can still hear you. Probably there's just a bit of a problem with the mic. We can't hear you very well. Okay, dear attendees, just bear with us. We're just trying to fix with Vanessa's mic. She's just trying to make that, if possible, if we can actually hear her. Yeah. So like I was saying, the topic of today is very crucial, the future of democracy in Africa. Already Africa is going through some challenges today, and then we're trying to see, is there a great future for democracy in Africa? How do you see democracy in the next maybe 10 5 years from now, how is it going to be in Africa? So, Vanessa, again, can you try and speak?
Thank you very much, Nkafu. I will speak in French. Comment est-ce que je vois la démocratie dans les années à venir? La démocratie dans les années à venir, je la vois davantage plus de challenges encore. J'espère que je peux entendre.
Okay, we still can't hear you. I think it's just like you have some mic problem or something. We still can't hear you. Yeah, she is audible, except the mic is low. So we hope that she just gets to fix that and then we get going. Yeah, bear with us, dear attendees. Bear with us. I think it's just some technical fault beyond her control, but we'll be starting very soon. Apologies for that.
Hello, now.
Oh, yes. Now you are audible. Thank you. Now you are audible.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were just like introducing you to everybody. So we don't mind. I know your English might not be not too well because of you are a French speaking person, but yeah, we'll be able to get the English that you have as we're trying to grasp it, you know, what really is the future of democracy in Africa. But yeah, we're beginning the session now, and I did introduce you to the attendees and also introduce the topic to them. And now we're trying to understand, Vanessa, what are the key challenges facing consolidation of democracy in African countries? We know there are challenges right now, but then what are those key challenges that that Africa is currently facing? Yeah.
Okay. Very much on board for the invitation. I'm very glad to be part of this webinar. Allow me to speak in French. Quels sont les défis de la consolidation de la démocratie en Afrique? Je pense que pour parler du défi de la consolidation de la démocratie en Afrique, il faut d'abord essayer d'éclairer ce qu'on entend par consolidation de la démocratie, ressortir les implications de la consolidation de la démocratie et les projeter sur le régime politique africain. Parce que ce sont les perversions de ces implications qui constituent au final les défis de la consolidation de la démocratie en Afrique. Alors, de manière générale, la consolidation de la démocratie, c'est un processus qui suit directement celui de la transition démocratique. Concrètement, dans les années 1990, alors que la plupart des États africains étaient confrontés au mouvement de démocratisation, les dirigeants africains avaient organisé ce qu'on appelle les conférences nationales dans lesquelles ils avaient formulé de nouvelles règles du jeu. Parce que avant 1990, la règle c'était l'autoritarisme, c'était le parti unique. Or, les mouvements de démocratisation ont poussé les dirigeants à reformuler de nouvelles règles de jeu politique. Alors, ce sont ces nouvelles règles du jeu politique qu'il est question de mettre en pratique pour que la démocratie soit consolidée en Afrique. Alors, la première règle des nouvelles règles du jeu politique, c'est la consécration de la démocratie constitutionnelle. C'est-à-dire le fait que les États africains mettent dans les constitutions nationales les éléments qui permettent l'émergence et l'institutionnalisation de la démocratie. Et par consécration de la démocratie constitutionnelle, on entend intégrer dans les démocraties les éléments du pluralisme politique, intégrer dans les des droits et libertés ainsi que la reconnaissance de l'opposition. Parce qu'avant 1990, comme je le disais tantôt, les droits et libertés, l'opposition, les syndicats, tout cela était proscrit par le parti unique. La seconde règle, des nouvelles règles du jeu politique, c'est la construction progressive de l'état de droit qui permet aux citoyens de lutter contre l'abus des dirigeants. Et par construction progressive de l'état de droit, on entend le rejet de la violence comme mode de gouvernement, le rejet des changements anticonstitutionnels de gouvernement et l'application de la limite des mandats présidentiels. Et la dernière règle, c'est l'organisation des élections disputées. Et dans cette règle, on voit clairement que l'élection apparaît comme un élément pertinent de la démocratie représentative. Ça, ce sont les trois règles du jeu politique. Et si on projette ces règles sur les régimes politiques africains, on se rend compte que la plupart de ces règles ne sont pas respectées. Et ce sont donc les déviances de ces règles qui constituent les défis de la consolidation de la démocratie en Afrique. De manière générale, le premier défi, c'est la personnalisation du pouvoir. La consolidation de la démocratie suppose en fait que les différents acteurs du jeu politique se mettent en retrait pour permettre aux structures, aux règles et aux normes de diriger non seulement le jeu politique, mais aussi la société. Or, dans la plupart des États, on se rend compte que sont les dirigeants, plus précisément le gouvernement par la personne du président de la République qui continue de mener le jeu politique. La seconde déviance, c'est l'émergence des coups d'État en Afrique. L'actualité, justement, fait état des coups d'État, le récent coup d'État au Gabon, au Niger et les anciens coups d'État au Tchad, au Burkina Faso, au Mali. Tout cela est en fait la conséquence de la perversion du pouvoir en Afrique. Il y a également comme obstacle la remise en cause de l'état de droit. Jusqu'ici, en Afrique, les droits et libertés des citoyens ne sont pas encore véritablement respectés. Je vais prendre le cas du Cameroun, où les rassemblements de l'opposition, ou alors, oui.
Okay, yeah, we appreciate that. I see a lot of our attendees are quite getting it hard to understand French. So I don't know whether you can also combine with English so that they also just get your points. Is that okay? Yeah.
En gros, it will be very difficult. As you know, I'll tell you that I'm French speaker, so it's very difficult for me to speak in English. Is why I recommend a translation for the webinar.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. So,
bon, je vais poursuivre en espérant que les participants qui peuvent comprendre le français ou les participants francophones puissent être dans la même dynamique que moi. Je disais tantôt que le second défi de la consolidation de la démocratie en Afrique, c'est la remise en cause de l'état de droit. Dans la plupart des États, les droits et libertés des citoyens ne sont pas encore véritablement respectés. Et je prenais justement l'exemple du Cameroun où jusqu'à présent, les rassemblements de l'opposition et des syndicats sont encore considérés comme un trouble à l'ordre public. Pourtant, ce sont des libertés qui sont consacrées dans les constitutions nationales. Le troisième défi ici, c'est, comme je disais ici, la manipulation des élections. La manipulation des élections par un groupe qui dénie ou alors qui critique l'avantage du groupe adverse. Donc, voilà autant de limites à la consolidation de la démocratie en Afrique que je vais résumer ici, à savoir la personnalisation du pouvoir, la remise en cause de l'état de droit, la persistance des conflits armés et la manipulation des élections au niveau des institutions nationales et locales. Merci.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Apologies for those that don't understand French. We're going to see if we can get a translator so that they also help us, understand what she's saying. But I see others are writing in French, so we hope that everybody will just get to understand the situation. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Apologies. Our other panelists, they just wrote to me that they will be joining in shortly as they are having a bit of some difficulties in joining. But then now we would like to understand, Vanessa, are there regional differences in the progress of democracy across African countries, especially in West Africa? Are there those differences? And if they're there, maybe you can just be practical enough and just give us those examples.
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew, for this second question. Naturellement, il existe des différences régionales au niveau des progrès de la démocratie parce que, voyez-vous, les expériences coloniales ainsi que les expériences nationales internes et même le niveau de développement sont autant de facteurs qui conditionnent les progrès de la démocratie au niveau des États, particulièrement au niveau de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Cependant, nous pouvons ressortir quelques tendances qui ont été publiées dans les rapports de certaines organisations internationales. Et dans cette tendance, on se rend compte que les États, les pays anglophones de l'Afrique de l'Ouest ont de meilleurs scores en démocratie que les États francophones de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Parmi ces pays anglophones de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, il y a le Ghana, la Sierra Leone, la Gambie, le Nigeria, la Mauritanie, qui ont en fait des institutions plus ou moins solides que certains États et qui leur permettent véritablement d'implémenter, d'avancer dans le processus de démocratisation de leurs États. Au niveau des États de l'Afrique francophone, on se rend compte qu'il y a uniquement le Sénégal, le Bénin et la Côte d'Ivoire qui se démarquent en termes de progrès de la démocratie. Les autres pays francophones de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, par contre, ont des scores très faibles. Je pense ici au Niger, au Burkina Faso, au Mali, qui ont expérimenté récemment des coups d'État. Et ces coups d'État ont eu un fort impact sur leur processus de démocratisation. Par ailleurs, en Afrique de l'Ouest, on se rend compte également que le pays actuellement qui a, disons, le meilleur score en démocratie, c'est un pays lusophone. Il s'agit du Cap-Vert qui, selon les rapports internationaux, a un score de 7,65 points et donc il dépasse même les autres États anglophones de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Ces éléments, en fait, tiennent compte d'un certain nombre de critères, notamment les libertés et droits des citoyens, le processus électoral, l'intégration du pluralisme dans les élections et la vie quotidienne, ainsi que la culture démocratique. Donc, de manière générale, en conclusion, on peut dire qu'en Afrique de l'Ouest, la culture française, ou du moins les États qui ont été colonisés par la puissance française, ont plus de difficultés à évoluer dans la progression de la démocratie que les États qui ont été colonisés par les Portugais ou alors par les Anglais. Donc, voilà un peu les tendances que j'ai essayé de déceler au niveau des progrès de la démocratie en Afrique de l'Ouest.
All right, thank you so much. Again, for those that don't understand French, apologies. we're supposed to actually have a translator just to make you understand, and also just to have you hear what Vanessa is actually talking about. But I see for those that probably understand French, you can just share that in the chat. Exactly, some of the points that she is mentioning, so that everybody gets to understand this. Right. Thank you very much, Vanessa. So again, we want to know what then strategies can African nations adopt to ensure accountability and transparency in their democratic system. Maybe you can just highlight to us these strategies, if there are any.
Ok, en gros, puisque vous voulez que j'aille droit dans le but, comme vous le savez, la responsabilité est comment dire, du moins les éléments que vous avez relevés tout à l'heure sont en fait les principes fondamentaux de la gouvernance et les stratégies que les nations africaines peuvent mettre sur pied pour essayer de renforcer ces aspects-là. Il y a notamment la mise sur pied des institutions fortes. Parce que le problème en Afrique, c'est que la plupart des institutions, des structures qui sont censées diriger le jeu politique, diriger la société, sont des institutions faibles. Faibles pourquoi? Faibles parce que ces structures n'ont pas assez de pouvoir. Ces structures ne sont pas réellement dépendantes dans leurs actions. Ces structures sont contrôlées par les gouvernements en place et ne sont donc pas libres de leurs actions. Donc, la première stratégie, c'est mettre en place des institutions suffisamment fortes pour contrer même l'action des gouvernants lorsqu'ils sont dans la dynamique de la mauvaise gouvernance. La deuxième stratégie, c'est que les États africains doivent permettre au peuple de participer à la prise de décision. Participer à la prise de décision, c'est vrai, on dira que les parlements représentent le peuple et que c'est suffisant, mais non, parce que la gouvernance suppose l'accès à l'information, la diffusion de l'information. Donc, les États africains doivent permettre au peuple de participer à la prise de décision. Il ne s'agit pas ici d'ouvrir les assemblées au peuple pour que plusieurs personnes y entrent. Non, il s'agit ici de traiter avec les représentants des différents groupes sociologiques, par exemple les présidents des syndicats, les présidents des différentes associations sociales ou socio-professionnelles qui vont en fait aider le Parlement dans sa dynamique de contrôle de l'action gouvernementale. Parce que dans la plupart des États, et je reste encore ici dans le contexte camerounais que je connais le plus, dans la plupart des États, l'action du Parlement est souvent critiquée, elle est souvent contestée. Souvent, le peuple ne se reconnaît pas ou alors ne se reconnaît plus dans l'action gouvernementale. Il est donc question de permettre aux représentants des syndicats et autres d'intégrer les assemblées électives pour que l'information soit plus accessible par les différentes couches de la société. Une autre stratégie également qu'il faut, c'est mettre l'homme qu'il faut à la place qu'il faut. En anglais, je pense on dit right man at the right place. Oui, parce que le problème qu'il y a souvent en Afrique, c'est que vous allez vous rendre compte qu'un seul dirigeant, en tant que ministre, est capable de gérer tous les portefeuilles. Hein? On ne peut pas être, par exemple, en 2019, ministre du Commerce. En 2020, on devient ministre de l'Agriculture. En 2023, on se transforme en ministre des Transports. C'est très compliqué. C'est ça qui crée souvent des chocs dans la gouvernance. C'est ça qui crée des difficultés parce qu'on ne respecte pas la technique. On ne met pas la personne qu'il faut à la place qu'il faut. Et je dirais
Vanessa, I'm going to cut you a little bit short again. Yeah, I'm going to cut you a little bit short. So just to recognize the presence of two of our panelists that have just joined. Okay. Yes, and maybe I will just give them a couple of questions also, since they're able to speak in English, and just to grab a little bit of, their attention and just, we keep on moving like that. But maybe before they speak, I would just like to read through their profiles so that people get to know who is who and so on and so forth. So for our attendees, this is the African Liberty webinar. We have this one every, once in a month, and where we discuss issues that are actually affecting, Africa. And now we have Dakore Ekpendu, who is a multimedia journalist. She is dedicated to amplifying voices and stories that matter. So with a focus on women, youth, peace, and a myriad of critical issues, our goal is to inform, inspire, and drive, positive change through impactful storytelling. Then we are also joined by Chriseddy Mwila, who is a social entrepreneur, award-winning governance expert, and the executive director at BeRelevant Afrika. So Mwila holds a bachelor's degree in politics and international relations from the University of Lusaka. Mwila, you're most welcome to this webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, sure. Same to you, Dakore. You're most welcome to this webinar.
I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'll quickly start with you, Mwila. We actually started the webinar, and thank you so much, Vanessa, for highlighting to us those two important questions to understand the current challenges that Africans are facing in terms of democracy and all those kind of things. Now, I have one question, one or two questions from Mwila, and then we'll also get to Dakore. But then, Mwila, how can African nations address issues of electoral integrity and political instability in the democratic process?
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Great. Sincere apologies. I will not be able to turn on my video. I'm on the road as I'm speaking. I couldn't miss the webinar. I couldn't wait to get home and to be able to join in. So I'll be able not to turn on my video. I'll be able to just speak like this if that's with you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is that okay? All right.
Yes.
Okay, great. So to quickly delve into the question that you've asked me, how can African countries promote electoral integrity of the continent? So the onus of ensuring there's electoral integrity and political stability does not necessarily rest wholly on African citizens. African citizens can rush the streets and protest. African citizens can sound the trumpet on social media. But the biggest challenge that is confronting Africa is the big boy syndrome, where we have strong men but weak institutions. In Africa, the biggest challenge that we are having, and that's why democracy is under threat, it's that we have political leaders who are stronger than the institutions that are supposed to be safeguarding democracy. And that's where the biggest challenge is unfolding, because when you scout around and you look in many African countries, one thing that you're going to state is that you cannot establish that the courts are more powerful than a political leader who is at the helm of political leadership. The police force intends to not have more power than the political leader who's at the helm of manning, the political stability in that particular country. So the biggest issue that is facing the African continent right now is our deepest thirst for leadership, for political power, at the expense of ensuring that we produce political stability in one way or another. And even when we look at the issue of electoral integrity, we've been talking about having independent electoral bodies. We've been talking about the issue of not having either the president or a political leader appointing people to look off to be at the helm of the Electoral Commission. I think this has just basically been poetic emphasis. We have not seen any development in that regard. I'll give an example of my country. In the rushing to the year 2021, our former President Edgar Chagolongo, I think kudos to him. He really tried by all means to ensure that the executive arm of government does not interfere in the operations of the electoral commission, to a point that during the 2021 election, we were able to see the incumbent president himself being defeated by an opposition candidate, because the gentleman that was put to be in charge of the whole entire electoral system was not one who was a political loyalist or was one who belongs to a political party, was basically a professional who was put in that particular position in order for him to drive such an agenda. But there are very few countries across the African continent that are moving in that particular dimension, that are moving in that particular direction. But coming to us as ordinary citizens of the African continent, we also should not sit back and relax, but we should be able to see how best we use our voices, to speak out on such matters every time that we get to notice that democracy in itself is being taken to be under threat in one way or another. And when it comes to advancing the whole entire agenda of political stability across the African continent, we also need to ensure that regional bodies across the continent, we begin holding each other accountable. For instance, the very moment that we notice that there is political instability in a particular country in SADC region, we should be able to sound the trumpet and not only have this comrade kind of platform we've created for ourselves where we fail to hold each other accountable. So as political bodies, the African Union, ECOWAS, and so on and so forth, we should be able to hold each other accountable whenever we notice that there's something that is not going right within the region. And on top of that, we should not only begin sounding the trumpet the very moment we notice that maybe, there's democracy is under threat or anything like that, but even when there is a leader who is not delivering according to the demands of the people, because don't forget that political instability in itself is also brought about as a result of economic instability. When the citizens in the country, they feel as though they are not having the satisfaction of the national cake, it's easy for them to protest and bring about political instability in the country. There are so many countries in either West Africa or Southern Africa where we have casted a blind eye when a leader is doing all the crazy stuff. And then when a coup happens, all of a sudden we begin to talk about democracy and so on and so forth. But then you come to see that the people in that particular country are actually rejoicing that there's actually a coup. Why are the people rejoicing? Because the who was there was not meeting their demands. Let us never forget that people will never eat democracy. Let us never forget that democracy will not pay school fees. Democracy will not provide good health care. Democracy will not provide good education. Democracy will not climate change. What all those issues is the kind of leadership at the helm. People by what they're able to see on the table. African citizens and African leaders, let us begin on that particular agenda, because political stability is directly related to economic stability. You cannot talk about economic stability without talking about economic stability. I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for your answer. I mean, you've mentioned of a couple of bodies that need to play the roles that each and every individual should play in ensuring that we have, a stable political environment in each and every country. But now I would like to ask Dakore, you are a journalist and you've spoken at a couple of, events and also play a role of, a civil society, person that gets to talk about matters that affect, your country and those kind of things. And now we want to understand what role can the civil society organization and the media play in shaping the future of democracy in Africa? What role does, the media and the civil society organization have in this play?
Okay. Andrew, thank you very much for such a beautiful question. Usually, when people ask the roles of media in any given subject, I get scared and I'm always happy at the same time, because it shows that, okay, the media, they are valuable and they're expected to deliver some things to the community, to the society, even at large. You mentioned the civil society organization. I have worked with the civil society just once, but the media, I keep doing it all my life as long as I am in it. So the civil society organization and the media, they really do play critical roles in shaping the narratives, in shaping the future of any given subject, like I talked about in Africa or globally. Let's not just talk about Africa. Their contributions are enormous. Their contributions are awesome because they are regarded as the fourth realm. Their contributions are very vital in promoting transparency, accountability, and citizen partnership or participation. So I think the little I have learned in civil society, I think it is first, it is about monitoring and oversight. What I mean by monitoring and oversight is acting as watchdogs. There are a lot of civil society organizations during the election in Nigeria. They acted like watchdogs. They were monitoring the government actions. They were trying to check policies to be sure that the policies were in place. They would give the reports back to the public. They would appear on different TV stations. They would at least, they owe the society the information of, transparency. And that is where the monitoring and oversight comes in. Then talk about capacity building and civic education. Civil society organizations, they should educate citizens about their rights, about their responsibilities, as well as working of democratic processes. I know the just Speaker of the House of Rep, Femi Gbajabiamila, he just left the Nigerian House of Rep, yes. But he did not just live like that. He worked with some civil society organizations, and in the honor of his name, they have built, a democracy school. If you want to be part of the democratic government, if you want to do this or that, if you want to understand what it is to work in the National Assembly, you have to attend the school. And it's working for the citizens of Nigeria, even people from different states in Nigeria and also different countries within, they tend to attend the institute. And that is what capacity building is all about. They also provide alternative solutions. There are a lot of works that can be put out by civil society organization when you talk about providing alternative solution. Such solution could be technology. Civil society organizations often propose alternative policies and processes and solutions and approaches to addressing different societal change. Okay, but now let's leave that of the civil society. Let's come down to that of the media. The media, they are very much powerful, and they are much powerful because if you're smart enough, you would want to find out what is going on in the media. The media, they create the narratives. And now, how would the media help during electoral processes? How would they help to form these, to do that? Anything possible, anything positive. First and foremost is informing the public. The media serves as the primary source, platform of information for citizens. They inform, they sensitize, they educate, they provide people with news, and they analyze political events, policies, and governance. In fact, some media persons, some media executives have gone beyond just broadcasting. They've gone beyond. Now what they do is that they draft out policies to help the nation. Yes, the African nation, they do that. They can also go into investigative journalism. I have investigated some cases before. It was mind-blowing. It was very intense. It was very risky. I do not know why I'm even alive. I should have been dead by going through such an investigation. But this is what journalists should do. You investigate reporting, you undercover, of course, you uncover corruptions. It may not be so easy, but there are other light investigations that you can also delve in. And you give public accountability. I know how many journalists have been able to create 1 or 2 platforms that hold the government responsible. For those ones who have cables in their houses that watch most events on channels, news, You see how Seun Okinbaloye is always holding the government accountable. He holds them accountable. He finds out their failures, their shortcomings, their prompting correctiveness, actions, and ensuring that they tell the public the truth. Sometimes some of these political leaders, they just walk out of shows because they cannot even answer any of the questions, you know. And also, journalists have always been in the good light of providing should I call it platforms for dialogues or platform for discussions? Yes, the most journalists, if they have the capacity, you know, they provide spaces for public discussions, for public discourse, debates, especially during elections, and discussion on important strategies, important political issues, societal issues, you know, issues that affect the common man, the woman, the child, the facilitating and all informed citizenry of Africa or whatever state you find yourself. They also promote diversity in unity. That is what journalists are for. It depends on your program. If you have a program that promotes diversity in culture, in ethnicity, and any other thing, then you are well helping the public change the narrative. The work of every journalist is to change the narrative aside educating the public, you know. And just to refer back to the question you asked the speaker who spoke, I think you asked about electoral integrity. I do not know, but
yeah,
yes,
yeah, I asked
okay.
about the electoral integrity.
Yes, in Africa. Please, may I add that we have too many problems in Africa, and one of the problems originates from politics. That's as good as it is, and it's as simple as complicated as it can be. It's a thing of a many factor. First thing first, we're always talking about transparency. Yes, one of the things Africans can do to herself is to put out the transparent voters registration. Either it comes technical or electronical. Please, it would help Africans a lot. I'm waiting for the very day Africans can vote from the comfort of their homes with their phones. I hope that day comes. Everybody will be identified by their numbers, by their primary keys, you know. And also, if our independent electoral commissions in different countries can be very, very transparent, it will do so much blessings to Africa and access to information. Most of us as journalists, we do not have access to information, you know. And when you talk about access to information, that takes me back to observers' missions. Some of the people from the European Union, from the African unions that comes to, you know, to check out the election. At the end of the day, I do not know, but I think at the end of the day, you find out that the voices of the street or the voices on the street is higher and stronger than the voices of the observers' mission. And sometimes I wonder why. I ask myself, do they not see these things that happens on the streets? You see, this is what I'm talking about. So electoral integrity goes a long way. It goes beyond just a politician at telling the people, like in Nigeria, how they do it is they come, they give you heaven and earth promise. But the moment they sit on that chair, they sit on the seats, they do not even remember you anymore. We hope we can change the narratives as journalists.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dakore, for bringing in, you know, the roles that journalists or the media, and also thank you so much for, you know, sharing your experience. I know, you know, journalists have actually do a lot of work, especially when it comes to investigative journalism, where you get to investigate, you know, certain issues. And I'm glad that you shared your experience. Then there is a point that Chriseddy Mwila mentioned about, you know, the roles that every individual here has to play in terms of, you know, democracy and all those kind of things. And I think you also touched a bit about that question. I have a follow-up question there, Mr. Mwila. You brought in aspects of individuals, but then what do you think are the implications of individuals in participating and participating in activism, by promoting the future of democracy in Africa. Do you think there are any implications there, Chris?
I think really there are no. I think the implications are always positive implications, if I can put it like that. I'll give an example. If our forefathers did not put their lives on the line to advance Africa's future, would still be colonized today. You know, if our leaders such as Kenneth Kaunda, you know, the Kwame Nkrumahs, all the leaders that had put their lives on the line in order to advance the Africa that we have today, would still be in shambles, would still be enslaved, and would still be colonized. These were people that, you know, told themselves that we are tired, you know, being sidelined. We are tired being taken for granted. We are tired being backbenchers. We are tired being spectators. And I think the onus comes, you know, it comes back to us. And I love even what the previous speaker had established, that each and every one of us have a serious role to play when it comes to safeguarding and protecting the very fabric of our continent's democracy. So the implications for me are positive implications, because in the words of Martin Luther King, you know, where he stated that, the world, evil consistently begins to penetrate in various spaces of dominion when people that feel as though they can do good, they choose not to do anything about it. So I think it's important for all of us, especially young people, because the whole entire African continent is resting on the shoulders of the African youth. By the time we clock 2040, you know, the largest share of Africa's population will be below the age of 25. Now, that in itself should tell you something. That even now, as we speak, we have close to 800,000 young people roaming the streets and roaming the corridors of the African continent. So the African young people have a serious role to play. And the question we should be asking ourselves as young people is, what kind of future do we want to create for ourselves? Our leaders have crafted and developed the Agenda 2063. And among the aspirations of Agenda 2063 is to ensure that the African youth and women are at the center of driving Africa's development. But then the onus comes back to us as young people, because there's no politician that will wake up in the morning and tell us, young man, young woman, get up and do something about it. The question we should be asking ourselves as young people is, what future do I want to create for Zimbabwe? What future do I want to create for Mali, for Nigeria, for Zambia, for South Africa? And the list goes on. The moment we begin taking up that responsibility on our shoulders, then we begin creating the future we want to see. Because truthfully speaking, comrades, I'm tired that every time we are speaking of leaders, we speak of leaders of post-colonial Africa. The question we should be asking ourselves is, our forefathers fought for political independence and we achieved it. What we should be fighting for as an African continent right now is economic freedom. 80% of NGOs on the African continent are funded by Western donors. Even big organizations across the African continent are funded by Western donors. Now, our greatest fight as young people of this generation right now is, how do we champion economic freedom across the African continent? That is an agenda we have on our shoulders. And in order to achieve that, it does not necessarily mean that a person has to be in active politics. We can bring about change. We can bring about the future we envision by being in the various spaces in which we are all dominating. So the implication, my dear brother, as I already alluded to, are positive, because in order to drive the future of the African continent, it shall not be driven by the animals we have in our zoos. It shall not be driven by the animals we have in our jungles and so on and so forth. It shall be driven by the resilient, energetic, and focused African people that are so passionate about the African continent. Patriotism should be the driving force that drives each and every African in order to achieve the content we all want for future generations.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I mean, you've already put it so well that the future actually belongs to us, and it depends on the kind of responsibilities or the kind of things that we do as young people that will actually determine the future of democracy in Africa. Thank you for bringing in the aspects of patriotism, also very important, because that is what brings people together and brightens the future of democracy. But then I'll get back to Vanessa right now. In a minute, because we'll be ending the session very soon. In a minute, Vanessa, then how do we conclude this? What then is the future of democracy in Africa? How do you see democracy maybe in the next 5 years or maybe in the next 10 years? How do you see that? I think each panelist, you get ready for this question. How do you see the future of democracy in Africa in your own words, in less than a minute? Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I will continue in French, please. Comment est-ce que je vois la démocratie en Afrique dans les années à venir? Moi, sincèrement, la démocratie dans les années à venir, je le vois toujours dans les turbulences. Parce qu'il faut dire que la démocratie, en fait, n'est pas un régime adapté à l'Afrique. Les déviances que nous vivons tout à l'heure, c'est parce que la démocratie actuelle en Afrique est une hybridation. L'Afrique essaie toujours de copier les modèles qui ont été construits pour d'autres États. Et c'est pour cette raison que nous vivons ce qu'on appelle la recrudescence des coups d'État et des conflits armés. Il est donc temps que l'Afrique mette sur pied une gouvernance à l'africaine basée sur des valeurs africaines. Je pense ici au partage, au respect, à l'écoute, une gouvernance à l'africaine pour véritablement être des sociétés plus stables. Sinon, nous ferons toujours face aux différentes déviances que nous avons actuellement en termes de gouvernance. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Vanessa. I know for those that understand French, you probably have heard the future of democracy in Africa. And if you understood what she said, please, you can just write that in the chat box so that those that don't understand French can actually read that through. All right, so Dakore, how do you see Africa's democracy in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sorry, I was talking. I did not know. I did not mute myself. Okay. Your question is quite dicey. Seeing Africa's democracy in 5 to 10 years from now, I think everything boils down on us. It depends on the narratives that we are changing. The leaders, the political leaders, they are getting old. The new ones are becoming younger and they are developing. So I feel the future of democracy, which would help us shaping our destiny, because when we have a leader who does not have anything to offer, it affects our destiny, either we like it or not as Africans. I think everything lies on us, and most importantly, it lies with technology. The world currently is driven by technology. The laptop we are using to have this communication is driven by technology. The radio station where I work, whatever we are using to disseminate information to the people, as much as we want it to get to the roots, to the grassroots, to different communities, it is well driven by technology. Many of the things, our phone that we have that navigates us to different places, is also driven by technology. So I think technology is the future for Africans, if only we can leverage on it. That's number one. Then number two, I think one of the things that would help us leverage better on democracy in Africa would be education. Everyone needs to be educated. Everybody needs to be given to knowledge. It is so painful when you see most African leaders do not even understand any subject matter. So for you to be an African leader, you must at least know 80% of different subject matters being talked about. Even if you're not even in politics, you should know much about sciences. You should know much about engineering. You know why? Because these are the security of the people. If you do not know anything about these things, how do you lead? If you have even people that are even in charge of these things, at a point, you should know much about it. So I think this is just the future of Africa, education and technology.
Yeah.
If we can leverage on it, we are good to go as Africans anywhere we find ourselves.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dakore. Issues of technology and education, very important. I think also that is what is going to drive the future of democracy in Africa. Chris, in less than a minute, please. Where do you see Zambia? Where do you see Angola, Nigeria, Cameroon? Where do you see them in the next 5 years in terms of democracy?
I think I'm optimistic. I am really optimistic of the future. I'll be honest with you, my brother. And one of the reasons why I am saying that I'm optimistic of the future is because of these passion of being so interconnected. You know, we don't see boundaries and we don't see solidarity people across borders beyond our own country. So frankly speaking, I am optimistic of Africa's democracy because of our generation. For me, that's the only way that is giving me a certain level of optimism, because the young people that I have, just as my previous speakers have spoken about, you know, I love what the previous speaker talked about, education and technology. That is something that our generation has really taken a hold of. If we take and how they are using tech to advance the tenets of democracy, that is top notch. So honestly speaking, for me, my dear brother, the one thing that I would love to say is that when I see my generation, when I see the works that we are doing, we're not doing it for the pocket, we are doing it because we love our continent. I am optimistic of the future of democracy on the continent, because definitely what we are doing as young beyond human imagination. And lastly, as I conclude, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Shukran asanteni sana for giving us this opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate everybody that attended this session. I think we're coming to an end. Of course, brilliant submissions from our panelists, Vanessa, Chris, and Dakore. Really want to say thank you so much for spending, you know, your time. You're busy people, but you were able to come through and, you know, discuss about this very crucial matter. Thanks to everybody, our attendees. Please, let's get to meet next time. The last Friday of November, we should come back and discuss about matters that gets to affect our continent. My name is Andrew Munganga, the Communications Intern at African Liberty. Goodbye, everybody.